Alright, so I'm going to do a little something different on this one. I think this is probably the first time I've done a deck tech. Um, this will probably be pretty bad because I'm deck teching a deck that I literally got inspiration from a classic popper deck from the Epic Storm. Check out Bryant at the Epic Storm on YouTube. Does a lot of Storm, variety of formats. He's doing popper, Gruul Storm deck, really sweet, with Chatterstorm obviously banned. It moved to just this pinging style where it plays creatures that deal damage when you play sorceries or instants, and then just change a bunch of them together. A lot of fast mana, a lot of vapor spells like Lotus Petal, Manamorphose, Land Grant. It just chews through and it deals tons of big damage. I really liked it. I'm not a Storm player. I haven't played Storm since Grape Shot was legal in Pauper. So this was a bit of a shock to my system, but I really liked it. And so I decided to try and adapt it to Historic Pauper. I went through several different versions of it throughout the afternoon. I stayed up till 2 a.m. this morning playing, much to my wife's dismay that I was still awake. We've got stuff to do today. And that was probably not a good choice, but I was really loving it. Kept going with it, tweaking with it. Settled on a few things, and this is, I think, probably near where I'm going to be for the final list, but I wanted to make a few changes because of things that I saw. So, Historic Pauper doesn't have the fast mana, obviously, that you have in Classic. So you have to run a higher land count. And I think one of the interactions I found that worked really well was Reckless Impulse and Explore. So you can, pull extra lands off your Impulse, explore them in, kind of get a stable collection of mana together to chain through a few spells. Paul and Bright was kind of gimmicky when I was doing a more creature intensive version because I was worried that maybe the pingers weren't getting as much value out of this deck because you don't have such a high density of non-land spells, non-creature spells in this version as you do in the Classic Pauper version. However, the times that I played it, it really does a lot of the heavy lifting. Like there are times that you're just digging for, you can just lay out first day of class, you're just digging to get a good solid Chatterstorm with 3 or 4 pings on it, and if you have 2 of your pingers in play, you're already going to deal 6 to 8 damage along the way, so you don't need as big a swarm of squirrels to finish the job. 5 or 6 squirrels, 4 squirrels, can often sneak up there. So I went away from that, went with a more like creature-based version, tried a few like Landlord Visionaries and like that. It's just really taxing on the mana base. It's really hard without the big spells. People suggested Trumpeting Herd. I've been using it. I don't think it works in this version. There are other Storm versions out there. I'm not really familiar with them in Historic Pauper, but apparently there's a lot of other versions out there that have been worked on where they kind of build the board and kind of rely on these herds. It's a little troublesome because Reckless Impulse does a lot of your heavy lifting in this deck, and if you get one of these pulled into Reckless Impulse, then you're only going to get a 3/3. You aren't going to get it on the comeback because you didn't play it from your hand, and that's a real feels bad. There are these like really small moments where you play out the herd, and then the next turn you get that essentially +1 to your storm count. And if you have something like First Day of Class in hand, you can trigger it before that token hits play, so it comes in as a 4/4 haste that turn, and then you get to go off with all your other squirrels. But it's just so narrow of like a boost. It really feels like win more. It's it's neat to do, but it just, I don't know. In practice, I don't think it makes the cut, and I think really the deck wants to be more towards supporting migration. I think that card does a lot of work. I mean, as good as Pest Summoning is, that when it comes out of sideboard when you get first day of class, Spoiling Migration does the same thing but one cheaper. The life gain off those tokens are really inconsequential. It doesn't matter that much. And then the other major, and this is probably the most important choking point of the deck, is getting your Goblin and Necromancer. It's critical. You got to reduce the cost of your stuff in the deck. This one isn't really built to be super resilient. You've got a limited window, so you got to find one. And Historic doesn't have a lot of great. I mean, you've already got the Reckless Impulse. Seeds of Spoils is good at digging a little bit and keeping you relatively stable on your mana, but you need to get to that, and there's just not a lot of ways to dig deep. But I think the right call is Adventure Awaits, and so I cut a couple of the pingers, increase the spell count a little bit, and we're just going to focus on Adventure Awaits. I think what I'll do in this is forge some wild cards. If I have any, gosh, do I have any kind of wild cards? Oh, I've got a few left. So at least get another Supporting Migration. And then bring out the Herd. And then I'm going to put back in for mine, which I don't think this will be necessary for Historic Pauper versus Historic Pauper. I typically play Pauper decks versus regular Historic decks. So there's just really a concession I have to make with enchantments and artifacts being more prevalent in what I see in the arena metagame. There's just so many life gain decks, so many gain and drain decks, so many just bonkers enchantments and artifacts that just wreck your day. That when you find a Cursed Idol, I think has to go back in. It's a lot better card, I think, than people give it credit for. I don't mind running it main deck because at worst you're going to be typically mana neutral with the deck. You're going to play it most times for 1 green. You're going to get that token back, so you've upped your storm count without losing any mana, and you've scryed 1 card on the first use. The next use of it gives you, typically again for a reduced cost 1 green, where you get that treasure, and you get either a token or a treasure. So you can either get another little plebe to bring out, or you're basically spending 1 mana to get 2, and that's the closest you have to, ramp outside of Explore in this deck. So I think it actually fits in a lot better than people might think. So I'm gonna make those changes to the deck, and then I'll probably throw up the list in the Historic Pauper Discords on my finished list, and just go from there and move on. It was a lot of fun building it. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I'm not the format expert. There's a lot of other guys out there who'll take this probably a lot further, but this will be a good jumping off point, and I thought I'd share it. So if you can kind of see everything, first day of class, 4 times Keswick Flame Breather, sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Reckless Impulse, Adventure Awaits, Chatterstorm Explorer, Pollen Bite Druid will come out, Spoiling Migration will increase, Trumpeting Herd will come out, and then we will put in you find a Cursed Idol, a couple of them, and I think that's where we're going to end up with this for our just template for, I guess, my version of Gruul Storm for Historic Pauper. Hope you like it. That is the deck for now, and I don't know, maybe I'll do another one of these on a deck I am more comfortable and familiar with. It'll turn out a little bit better, but hope you liked it. There you go.